seagrasses, they are a flowering plant, and just like the plants that we have on the land, similar to the grasses we have on the land, and our plants on the land, they are those plants that can have flowers, seeds, and they have a true plant structure, like they have a separate root system, stem, leaves, and their reproductive characteristics. Similar to that, our seagrasses, they have the exact same thing. They are usually confused with algae, seaweeds, like sea grapes or lumi maybe. So these seagrasses, they are able to survive in brackish and seawater environments. So most of the time they are submerged in water, and with the tidal fluctuations, some of the species can get exposed during low tide, and there is about like 72 species globally in various parts of the world. Except for Antarctica, you won't be able to find them there, but every other part. So globally, if we look at the seagrass coverage, it's less than 0.2%. So seagrasses, they are an important flowering plant. So they are part of the angiosperm group. So for seagrasses, since they are in the coastal environments, so a lot of times if you go out in our Pacific region, our coastlines, you will see mangroves, and just before, just after the mangroves, you will see seagrass. Most of the time they will be growing together with seaweeds or algae species. And for Fiji and the Pacific, majority of the seagrasses we have would be of a smaller variety. Smaller varieties which you will find them from our low tide areas, intertidal areas we call them, which are exposed during low tide. Subtidal, when the tides are low and they still, let's say below knee water, where some of the species of seagrasses will survive. And for Fiji, we've got a deep water species which is found so far in our second island, the Kaulevu Reefs. And the seagrass there grows up to a depth of around 15 to 20 meters. It's a different variety of seagrasses. The reason they are important is we know of this atmospheric carbon increasing, and what seagrasses do, because they are plants, they're good with photosynthesis. And like all the other plant varieties, mangroves, seagrasses, and salt marshes, they have been identified as the most productive plants that can capture a lot more atmospheric carbon and convert and store these in their biomass, the plant structures, which would be above ground, let's say the leaves, the flowers, etc., and below ground in their root structures. So for seagrasses, they are important because just like mangroves, just like salt marshes, we don't have in the Pacific, we mostly have seagrasses and mangrove species. So a lot of seagrasses, their total biomass, the whole weight of the plant, 90% is stored below ground in the sediments. So over time, even if the top seagrass leaves get consumed by some of the fish species, let's say rabbitfish or turtles might be consuming them, so they get damaged. But the below ground root structures, they are so interconnected to each other, they will remain there for millions and centuries. So that makes them much more efficient at capturing carbon and storing them, compared to the terrestrial plants that we have, the rainforests that we normally have. These rainforests, they do the same thing. They photosynthesize by taking atmospheric carbon dioxide, converting and storing in the biomass, but majority of the biomass is above ground. And once we, for example, are harvesting a tree, a lot of that carbon is lost, and the root systems, even though they might be in the sediments, they are still within the oxygen limits or within the sediments. So where you have decomposition process occurring. So decomposition, a lot of these bacteria and fungi will be using oxygen to decompose the materials, plant-based materials. In blue carbon systems, in coastal systems, our mangrove and seagrass, where they are found, it's low in oxygen, the sediments. So that makes it much more efficient for the carbon that is trapped in the root structures, etc., to remain there for millions and centuries. So that gives them a bit more acknowledgement in terms of how efficient they are in keeping the carbon locked for millions of years compared to on land. So either we harvest the trees on land, or these bushfires are happening. So all these things limit the carbon that is trapped in terrestrial. So in terrestrial forest areas, we call them green carbon. In the ocean or coastal system, we call them blue carbon because of the blue ocean color. So we have 5 species. Previously, there was a subspecies that was also recorded, but based on some scientific studies whereby genetically and also using the plant's reproductive structures, because when we are trying to taxonomically classify a species of plant variety, and if there are flowering plants, then we use their leaf structures, we use their reproductive structures as well to identify, using a taxonomist, to identify if the species are the same species or different. Now for seagrasses, the subspecies that I'm talking about is Halophila ovilius bullosa. Now this subspecies was found in Fiji, in Tonga and Samoa as well. So for the Fijian species, what is part of my research in seagrasses, so I had collected some seagrass reproductive structures like the flowers, seeds, fruits of this particular species, and compared it to the parent species, which is also found in Fiji, Halophila ovilius. Based on that and the genetic studies, using a DNA marker, so that's a unique genetic code that is used to map the genetic material using the plant's chlorophyll, the leaf structures, and the genetic coding that is present, which is unique to each plant and species. So based on those two components, we found out that this species is the same species. There is no subspecies. So on that, we recommended that there be a revision of the taxonomic position for Halophila ovilius and the subspecies. So currently it's all Halophila ovilius. There is a slight difference in the leaf structure that we found, which was the leaves for the subspecies bullosa. They looked like having blisters, water blisters on both sides of the leaf, while the parent species Halophila ovilius, it was very smooth. Now this is a behavioral change that depending on maybe unsuitable environmental condition, the plant adapts to survive in that environment. So seaweed, they wouldn't have, like I said, root structures. They won't have defined stems, leaf stalk, leaf blades, etc. All these, like we see on our terrestrial plant, land-based plants. But algae, it would be just a mess of, let's say, the plant itself, without these root structures being well defined or the leaf being well defined. And they don't have the root system. The plants are mostly green, brown, red in colors. So the biggest would be that they do not have these structures. Together with that, their reproduction is mostly asexual, meaning they grow by just breaking off pieces from themselves, etc. Globally, scientists are saying that a lot of sedimentation. That means when we do development on land and we are developing, let's say, infrastructure like roads, we're building bridges in coastal areas, or we're building hotels for accommodating tourism, or developing our tourism industry, all those things whereby we end up excavating land areas, and a lot of sediment usually is washed down into coastal system, let's say even from coastal as well as inland. When we do all this logging and other activities, or quarry, for example, quarry works are happening, gravel is being extracted from rivers. So a lot of this sedimentation through our rivers and stream ends up in the coastal system, where seagrasses and mangrove systems are. All that sediment gets settled within the mangrove and seagrass areas, and if we don't have mangroves, we don't have seagrasses, a lot of the sediment goes over to our coral reef systems and settles on the coral reefs and damages them. So sedimentation is one. The other is a lot of nutrients being washed down from the land. Let's say our farmers are using a lot of fertilizers and or chemicals as well, but fertilizers where we have a lot of sewage, untreated sewage being dumped directly into water bodies and ends up in coastal system. It gives rise to a lot of algae, and that also prevents the seagrasses from, so both nutrients and sediments, what they do, like the sediments will cover up the water body, where seagrasses, because they are rooted in the sediments, they need to have photosynthesis, so they need clear water, but the waters remain dirty or muddy over a long period of time, so that will prevent seagrasses from photosynthesizing and the plants will die. The other is when a lot of nutrient starts to be found in water, then you have a lot of these plant-like animals, we call them phytoplanktons. So all these microscopic animals will be increasing in numbers, and they will also prevent sunlight from penetrating where the seagrasses are. Plus, a lot of nutrients mean a lot of seaweeds can be competing and growing or overgrowing on seagrasses as well, again preventing them from photosynthesizing. So these two have been globally recognized as the main factors affecting seagrass or threatening. For the Pacific, organizations like Seagrass Watch, they have been monitoring certain areas within Fiji for seagrass health, and they have also published their recordings. I think in 2021 there is a paper by Lance McKenzie. So in there, certain areas have been identified that even the sediments and nutrients along the coral coast, let's say, might be affecting seagrasses growth and expansion. Globally, there is a lot of information. I think now people are coming into terms with especially the blue carbon concept, and there's a lot of data coming out from places like US, UK, Australia is doing really well as well. But when we compare other coastal systems, let's put it Pacific, currently we are still finding our way through the gaps in knowledge. There is a lot of gaps for the Pacific in terms of seagrasses. Awareness as well, it's lacking. So organizations are linking up like FNU and GIZ. We are also partnering with other government and NGO groups to raise awareness on the subject. What we are trying to do is develop this curriculums or short videos, and to help people identify and become more aware of seagrasses. So for the Pacific, a lot of us are more concerned about, there's a lot of information from media about coral reef. So I think a lot of us are well aware of what is happening around coral reef, the amount of research, even globally. If you look at which coastal system is getting more publicity, it would be coral reef, and then followed by mangroves. Seagrasses and salt marshes are quite below the public radar. So I'll give you one story, my own experience when I was doing my field work, and a lot of my site were within Vitilevu and along the Koro coast. With the hotels, I had to go in to collect my samples. So a lot of people would come up to me and ask me, what are you doing, what is that you are collecting, are you going to consume it? So there's a lot of confusion about seagrass and seaweeds, and what is the purpose of seagrasses. So I think it's slowly coming out, and media plays a huge role in trying to advocate and increase knowledge on the subject. I mentioned that past 10 years, Seagrass Watch is an international organization. There are standard methods and practices that they provide, and have been monitoring seagrasses in Fiji, around 7 areas that they have been monitoring. But it's not enough, because one of the biggest problem is, even with all this information about seagrasses, they're monitoring, there's a lot more areas that we haven't touched, we haven't explored. So we really don't know which areas have seagrasses and what type of seagrasses are there. The ones that we have investigated, we can only talk about those. And I think it would be advantage to all of us if more work continues to be done on seagrass. So conservation, I think, becomes an important part for us to manage and work with this natural solution for climate change mitigation and adaptation practices. Yeah, we know that globally our carbon dioxide emissions have been great, even though in the Pacific our emissions of carbon dioxide is not so much, but then on the other hand, the Pacific is facing all these climate issues like coastal systems, sea level is rising, storm surges are coming in, coastal erosion. All these effects are requiring that we have natural solutions, and seagrasses together with mangrove systems, they are a natural solution for protecting us or helping us to maybe deal with some of the impacts of climate change. So for the Pacific, I think a lot of us are well aware and have probably experienced planting mangrove, but seagrasses is something new. Other parts of the world, there has been success stories using other donor healthy beds of seagrasses, transplanting them. There is also planting of seagrasses using seeds. But for the Pacific and Fiji, we haven't been able to utilize the seed and grow them. So there is more scientific investigation that needs to be done to be confident to say that seagrasses using the seeds can be germinated. But currently we are doing one, it's a first of its kind in Fiji, and 3 other Pacific countries are also exercising the exercise of restoration of seagrasses. And this is in collaboration with GIZ, the German International Corporation. For the past 6 months, FNU, our College of Agriculture, Fisheries and Forestry, has been working with GIZ on this project at our pilot sites. So what we are doing is, with the help of the villages, we have educated them, we have raised awareness, and we are also trying to expand to other coastal communities. So what we are doing is, we've tried 3 methods to see which of the 3 methods would be useful for transplanting. So we've identified a method, and currently we are in our 5th month of monitoring the growth of seagrasses. So with the restoration work, they are important, but then there's a lot of gaps. We cannot use, let's say, a method that did well for, let's say, US or UK and try it out here with the same methods. The environments are different, so there's a need to modify and be able to get well aware of how restoration work will be perfect for the Pacific community. and it's something I think all coastal communities, especially our women and children, and even the men in coastal communities who go out for collecting subsistence fisheries, things like shrimps or mollusk species, and many other juvenile species of our commercial fisheries, they would find in seagrass. And there is a lot of literature. Pacific might be lacking a few of this literature, but overseas, all the developed countries like UK, US, Australia, they have found some substantial amount of information linking commercial fisheries with seagrass habitats. So just like mangroves and coral reef, we know them to be nursery grounds or breeding areas for our commercial species, crab, shrimps, or even our offshore fisheries. A lot of that fisheries is found also in between seagrass beds. So when there is high tide, low tide, the mangrove based and coral reef based system, the species that are hovering in them, they also come into seagrass areas. So if you look at the amount of animals or biodiversity you find in seagrass compared to areas that don't have seagrass, it's quite a lot. It's just currently we don't have information supporting this document for the Pacific. So there is a lack. But yeah, there is a lot of, I think all our coastal communities, if you ask them, a lot of shrimp species are found, a lot of juvenile crabs or sea cucumber babies you would find. So it's just like a nursery and breeding ground for a lot more species which are of commercial interest to us. So a lot of these landowners, Golingoli owners, coastal communities, they had or they have effectively placed in temporary or permanent areas which are prohibited for fishing and harvesting for marine-based organisms. So knowingly or unknowingly, most of them probably without the knowledge that they are also protecting seagrass areas. So in that way they were a step ahead than most of the scientific communities. So currently what we are doing at the two project site, because the coastal communities already had MPAs marked, so all we have done is go in and provide them that additional information regarding why seagrasses are important. And it plays a really good role, because I'll give you one example compared to our last visit in December, because we visit our project site every month to monitor the growth of our seagrass plots. So the communities themselves have come forward and told us that they have been seeing more varieties of marine species, offshore species like sea turtles that sighted for the first time in their coastal systems, and barracudas. A lot more fish are coming in. This is just unofficially they are telling us, verbal communication, having a Talanua session with them. So I think the local traditional communities already know that their traditional methods of protecting is workable. It's just that scientific information that is required is what we provide to them, for them to understand why and what and how that is needed. It's been fabulous with my research work, so I could only do so much for my PhD, right? And once the PhD completed, so I go back and start to investigate for seagrasses alone. But with GIZ coming in and collaborating with me, so it's another level of my work. It's not been shelved, it's now in full force out there, and we are assisting communities and many other organizations like Global Visions International, GVI. It's a community, it's a profit organization based in one of our project sites at the village, and they had been doing some other work as well in the village in terms of monitoring of coastal systems. So they have come on board as well. There are many other organizations coming forward. Ministry of Fisheries and Forestry are always working with us. So it's just helping us to reach out more and spread the information that is required. I would like to just talk and probably motivate a few researchers, young students who are thinking of which career path to take, you're undecided. So there are a lot more information that is required in any aspect of the Pacific, whether you are thinking of doing an arts-based program or science-based program. A lot of information, a lot of knowledge is still lacking, and I would just like to tell you to go forward with your passion and help us to narrow this knowledge gap, because knowledge shared will help us to all meet up at a common place and maybe do something good for our country as well.